Hey, business building warrior. We've got an episode today with a guest. That means we're going to kick on the cameras and we're going to put this one on YouTube as well as on your favorite podcast listening app, which is where most people listen to our show. But if you weren't aware, oftentimes in the show notes, there's a link to a YouTube video too, which is what we're going to do today with Mark and Amanda Hollingsworth. They have been married for a couple decades. They got some teenagers. It's a really cool couple that you're about to meet because what they've done is they've grown a business to about $600,000 a year at just under 20% profit margin, I think they said on the episode today. I'm recording this after I talked with them. They got a couple teenage boys who they're homeschooling and they're doing the e-commerce thing. Now, Mark was in full-time pastoral ministry for a good time, as he shares on today's episode. And this is just a really sweet couple with a great attitude. They love God. They love serving their customers. They love growing their team. They love this community. They were recently at our Live Proven conference in Florida, and they actually live in Central Florida. So pretty convenient drive for them. But getting to know them today, several great lessons. One of them is, I think that might jump out to you, is they claim to have no business skills. Like they were in full-time ministry up until a short time ago. That's what they did. But they've learned what they needed to learn in order to grow a credible business. And that's exactly what they're going to share with us today. We're going to talk about the types of products they sell, how they find them, what courses have helped them. Here's a hint, proven Amazon course. They love this podcast. That's how they actually got started in this community, was listening to this show and then sharing it. And they share some of the things that make this community different and special, having looked around the landscape a little bit of what's out there. So it was a good time hanging out with a couple of really cool people from our community who have built an incredible business, again, using the Replens model. They also sell some clothes as well. But you're going to enjoy this episode, I think, get some great valuable lessons. So let's jump over and meet Mark and Amanda right now. So Mark and Amanda, welcome to the show.
Hey, Jim, thanks for having us.
It's truly an honor. I can't wait to hear your story. Let's jump right into it.
Well, I don't know how far back you want us to go, but we're doing this together. So we met in 2002, got married in 2003, and we married with the idea in mind that we would serve in Christian ministry. Amanda always wanted to be a pastor's wife, and since 2003, I've served as a pastor at a couple of different churches. Pastors don't make much money. So every time Christmas rolled around, we found ourselves needing a little bit extra cash to buy Christmas presents for our family. And in about 2007, Amanda was very interested in selling stuff on eBay to make some extra money. So she did her research and found some products that would sell for a profit. And that year is when we started using eBay to pay for our Christmas presents. I didn't know much about it. That was really her thing going on at the time. But at somewhere along the way, I left the pastorate and started teaching Bible in a Christian school. That's when we moved here to Florida about 8 years ago.
Where in Florida?
We're in West Palm Beach area, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. About 3 years ago, I had been teaching there for about 5 years, and we got new administration and new principal, and I could tell my time there was coming to an end. So I really started becoming interested in what Amanda was doing. And, if I was going to have to support my family, I needed to learn how to do this selling stuff online. So I bought a couple of, basic courses on how to sell on Amazon, and they gave me a good foundation, but the rest of it, I just really had to figure it out myself and get started. And luckily, when my job ended at the Christian school, they pay you through the summer. So I had 3 months of salary there to have while I was working. And so we used that. That really helped us to find some inventory and to turn a profit and put it back into the business. And that's when I started full time, incorporated and, set up as a regular business. I was, kind of sad to lose my job there because I really enjoyed teaching and the students and my teacher friends. But, I don't know. Teachers, they don't get paid much for a lot of time that they put in. I remember sitting in a teachers meeting towards the end of the year when they were asking us to have all these detailed lesson plans turned in for the following week by Friday afternoon, the week before. And a bunch of us were just kind of, just complaining and saying, we can't do it. We can get them done maybe Sunday or Monday, but not Friday afternoon. And the new principal that year, I remember him saying, when I was a teacher, I would come to the end of the week, and on Friday night, we'd be sitting down watching TV, and I just get out my laptop and start typing. And I just thought, well, that's fine, but I don't want to do that. So when my job ended, I really looked at it as, I'm sad to not be teaching anymore the parts I liked, but my salary was capped. I could only make so much, and it really wasn't a whole lot. And now with the endless possibilities of e-commerce, I can, within reason, kind of make as much as I want, because the opportunities really are endless out there. And I found that out pretty quickly. And, it wasn't, it was a grind there in the beginning. It's still always a grind. There are some days when we feel like we got a pretty good handle on things and, we could probably help somebody out, get started. And there's some days that we just think we have no idea what we're doing.
Hey, I've been doing it 20 years, Mark, and I feel that way back and forth too myself pretty much consistently. So welcome to the journey, man. That's business ownership in the e-commerce age. So what did you leave out, Amanda? What are we missing? Fill in some gaps on Mark's story. The wife always comes in with those little right?
Well, I do like to say about the eBay thing that we have two boys, 14 and 16. And if they can't find something, the first thing they say is, "Mom, did you sell whatever it is?" Because if it is in this house and it's time for it to go, I'm going to list it on eBay and I'm going to make some money off of it. So
where'd my radio go, Mom? Oh,
you didn't use that for a week. I sold it. I
clean your room.
I love doing that. Like, that's been a really huge part of us, like, understanding e-commerce and just like knowing that stuff sells on the internet. Bottom line, stuff sells on the internet. I used to, and this really doesn't happen so much anymore, but I really got into whatever was the hot toy for Christmas, and my dad and me, and we would all just like go as many places as we could and load up on that hot toy. And I would sell that. That kind of died out where you could really get your hand. It became kind of like there wasn't really necessarily probably, and I say, as far as my knowledge in the past 5 or 6 years, like that kind of died out, but I still just had my love of like finding brands that I know would sell. And, I have been in the fitness industry for 10 years myself. So I teach group fitness classes. So that was also a huge help to us as we knew his, teaching was coming to an end. We knew we still had me working in the fitness industry and my eBay stuff, but we just really were like, we've got 3 months to make it or break it. And, we made it. I remember Mark coming in the door and saying, "I just found this guy on the internet and I listened to his podcast and his name is Jim and he's really great." And so that's really where you just kind of stumbled upon the PAC course. And we are diehard podcast fans listening. Like, we laugh at ourselves. Like, we'll come back in the door and be like, "Hey, did you hear this one today?" And like, that's what we love to talk about, is what we are learning on the podcast and stuff. And we really have felt like we've learned a ton from just listening to other people. We were at the conference. So like, I was like, "Oh, you've been on the podcast." So that was super, super cool to just like recognize people.
People will be doing that to you guys. "I heard you on the show." You're like, "Yeah, but it's just us." And that's the same thing I do. Is like, it's just me, guys. I'm just here to learn and grow, right? You'll learn. It's just a community of business building warriors. Because it is a fight, and we're in the similar struggle. But I love that. So I love all these details you're filling in. Sorry to interrupt you there, but yeah, being a podcast guest has been a milestone for some people. But then once you've done it, you're like, people think way more of you than they probably should. It's like, yeah, we just told our story, But what I love about it is it's just everyday real people telling their story. and encourage others to do the same, because some people are too shy to do it. But I figured a former pastor and his wife, yeah, you guys are going to jump on here and share pretty openly.
Oh, she's been talking about it for a year. Oh, how can we get on the podcast? And I just kept saying, well, you just don't go up to Jim Cockrum and say, hey, can you have us on the podcast?
Actually, you do. It's that easy. Jim Cockrum at Gmail. Send me your story. You'd be surprised. You got a pretty, if you're succeeding at all, if you've got a story to tell at all, like, hey, let's do it. But yeah, it can be. I'm intimidated by some of the guests we have. We had a guy on here that had $1 million a month. And it's like, I've never sold $1 million
Wow.
on Amazon before. This is crazy.
Yeah.
So. Well, let's keep going. Keep your story going. Let's take it wherever you'd like. You mentioned that you jumped into the course. I'm curious at what point that was. I'm curious how your business is doing now. What are you selling? And of course, any more about your story. I'm a PK. I don't know. You guys probably had figured that out. I don't know if the other listeners know what I even just said. A pastor's kid. We call them PKs. Right? So
yeah,
we're doctors' kids can get sick for nothing. The doctor can fix them up. Well, pastors' kids are good for nothing. We always say.
That's right. Yeah.
There's definitely a sense of like, we've talked about, this is obviously when we got married. I mean, I wanted to be a pastor's wife. He was studied for the ministry. But we definitely feel like this is our ministry now. I
was going to ask, I love that.
Other people. Yes. And just to back up a little bit, our boys are 14 and 16 and we homeschool them. And that's a huge privilege to us because we very much are like, we are raising up men to go out into the world themselves. So we are very much invested in that right now.
Can I call time out on you, Amanda? I love what you just said. Don't forget your place.
Okay.
Raising men. You're not raising boys. I love that. And we say that very intentionally in our house too. We're not raising kids. We're raising adults.
Yes.
We will get there.
Yeah.
I love that in Hebrew, there's no word for adolescence.
Yeah.
You're a boy, you're a man.
That's a totally modern invention.
Mm-hmm. Pretty cool stuff. Not that that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day, but I love how intentionally we're raising men. I love that.
Yes. We homeschool them. In fact, Mark is going to be able to teach our younger boys class this year. They're involved in a little homeschool community, and he's going to be teaching that group this year, which we're just super excited about. I mean, it's just, your kids are a little bit older than ours. We have a short time to just minister to them and train them and teach them to go out into the world. And so for us to be home together doing this with our children is just the greatest blessing of ministry we could ever have.
Let me ask you a question on that topic. I'm curious. And I have no idea. I've never heard your story before. I saw a little bio before. So I don't know if I'm setting you up for it. And there's no particular answer I'm going for here, but I'm just wondering, introducing business into your family. You were in ministry full time and you're still in ministry now. And you understand what I mean when I say that. Some may not, but as believers, we're constantly in ministry. It doesn't matter where we are. But by introducing business into your home, what did that do to the homeschool efforts? Like, is there anything different that you're seeing in your boys that wasn't there before?
Well, they never really have been interested in school very much. So,
preach.
Well, to give them, but to give them another interest and encourage them along, entrepreneurship, which they're not really inclined towards that. They just have their hobbies they like doing, like putting up YouTube videos or doing podcasts. They make stop motion videos with Lego figures and post those.
Explain the setup you guys are using right now. Is this your setup or where?
I have no idea. My 14-year-old did it. So
for people watching on YouTube.
Well, he's got these different colored lights that are shining on us and filters over the lights. We got these fancy microphones here. He told me I had to wear the headphones or else you were going to echo and the microphone would pick it up. I don't know anything about that. Amanda didn't want to wear headphones because it'd mess up her hair.
You guys look great. And for those who are listening only, let me just fill in Mark and Amanda a little bit. You guys are sitting in what looks to be like a professional, like gamer podcast little area there. And you're saying your kids aren't very entrepreneurial. Mark, I'm going to just counter back a little bit that is entrepreneurism right there. I mean, that's entrepreneurial efforts. maybe it hasn't monetized yet, but I'm thinking back in time to my son Trey, who now has 6-figure months and he's 21, in his e-commerce business and his consulting practice. And he started like that. I mean, he was creating these silly little videos. You can go back in time. He's doing card tricks and, little skateboard tech deck with his fingers. But this is the new skill set. Now, I don't think we should encourage our kids to try to be YouTube stars. That's a dead end.
Mm-hmm.
But if they're actually providing value content, and that's one thing I coached my son on, and provide valuable content that people want, stuff that makes them better for having watched it. Truly serve with a servant's heart. That's entrepreneurism right there. Right.
Yeah.
So I think they're on a great path personally from what I'm seeing so far.
Yes.
Well, they're definitely inclined that way. And we sure would love to see them be able to eventually, like you say, monetize it.
Well, and then also just recently, so our 14-year-old, he actually has cerebral palsy, and it's very mild. Unless you saw him, unless we've told you, so now you would know. But if you saw him walking around, you would not notice it. His left hand, it's mostly his left hand, but he is very techie. So he understands all of these things. So he really is the mastermind behind the podcasting and the YouTube videos. And so we're using our older boy. We can get to that to help us with our replens, but with our younger boy, Eli, we are having him make a YouTube channel for us. And right now we're only using it for our employees. And what we do is we prep our item, and we have a video, like we make a video, and then he sends it to our employee, and it keeps our employee from having to come over. It just takes out a little bit of time, and he knows how to make it private, so only our employee can see it. And so, but he's got a banner, and he just knows how to do it all. So, I mean, we would one day love to provide some other content just about how we got our start and just little tips and tricks that we do just on a regular basis on this YouTube channel that he has created for us. So that's how we're using him even in our business right now. It's small right now, but as he just loves it. He loves tinkering around with all of it. So we have a feeling that could be more in the future.
Oh, it will be. I guarantee you it will be. What we're talking about and doing right now is so counterculture. I just got off another podcast episode. I'm not going to talk about that here, but this was the theme with some of the leaders from our community of just after we stopped recording and we're talking, the things we bring as having that biblical foundation, and anyone can adopt a biblical worldview, regardless of your worldview, your belief system, I should say. You can have a biblical worldview, which is, God created business and we're to serve each other well, and there's benefits for that. You incorporate homeschooling and entrepreneurism and this biblical worldview of serving others well. It's a powder keg. I've seen it enough. You guys are sitting on so much potential right now that you don't recognize. If you guys were a stock as a family, I'd be investing right now based only on what I've heard you say so far. And that may sound a little outlandish, but you've got the tech piece, the entrepreneurial spirit, the homeschooling, meaning you're ingraining those family values in that they have a hard time getting, if we're to be honest, from a public school setting now. Parents have to work extra hard. Sometimes people ask me, guys, not to derail this too much, like, hey, how do you homeschool? It seems like so much work. And I'm like, how do you send your kids to public school and protect the values that are so meaningful to you? Like, I don't know how to do that. I picked the easy path. To me, you got the hard path. How do you do what you do? How do you convince them, those values that you hold so dear are important when they're told all day, every day, basically by their peers and many leaders that those are useless ideas? Like that seems like a struggle to me.
Yeah.
So you guys are sitting on something truly special here. I think that'll become unveiled over time. And you guys are going to be leaders in our community. I can tell. I just see it coming a mile away.
Well, we like to hear that encouragement because we don't have a business background, and and there are certainly obstacles to selling on Amazon or just an e-commerce business in general. But that's one of the reasons why we're very grateful to have found the Silent Sales Team community, because everything is so encouraging, and that's what we need, because it's very easy to get discouraged. So qualities that we've heard you mention over and over, and that we've seen displayed in the leaders of the community and in the just regular people that we've gotten to know, things like gratitude, which I've heard you mention over and over, and perseverance. That I think that's maybe what what keeps people from advancing as far as they could, because there is so much opportunity. They run into roadblocks when they get started and they just kind of, give up. This is too hard or something. But there is certainly a great blessing on the other side if you can push through whatever obstacle you come across. And there will be many. But the thing is just not to quit. There's a lot to be said for that.
That's right. Man, that's beautiful. You should be a preacher. Oh, wait.
I preach to my wife every day.
Oh, right. Okay.
One day she's going to listen.
That's the trick.
Yeah.
She'll listen.
Yeah. Well, we, I don't know. We didn't really mention how long ago it was we found the community, but it was about 3 years ago. I remember it was in the summer of 2018, and I was really, just driving maybe all over the state trying to find stuff to sell. And while I'm driving, I got to listen to something. And I think the first podcast I heard was maybe number 2 or 3. I just kind of looked up on Spotify or Apple, something, selling on Amazon or e-commerce or something. And I found these guys who would, it was all private label and, share your story. And it was, well, I bought some supplements off the shelf at Walmart and slapped my own label on them. And now I'm a millionaire and I sold my business and I retired. And I just thought that can't be real. And then the rest of them were, just these guys who use profanity and stuff like that. And then I came across Silent Sales Machine. And this guy was talking about God and the Hebrew culture and serving one another and stuff like that. And I just thought, well, this, I just think I'll keep listening to this. So I went all the way back to episode 0 and just started going through while I was driving around. A couple months later, I guess it was, I bought the Proven Amazon course. And I would listen to the different modules while I was driving around and heard so much, golden nuggets. Even just one example was I was listening to the module on online arbitrage, which I don't do hardly any of, maybe once in a while, but I just was listening to that because I was curious. It was Gary Baird and Chris Green, and they were talking about, different strategies for buying stuff online. And one thing that stuck with me was, I think it was Gary who said, go for items that cost more, have a higher buy cost, because you'll eliminate your competition. Most people don't want to spend that much. And that's where I was. I thought, I can't spend $50 on something. What if it doesn't sell and I'm stuck with it? But then I realized, when I looked up those items just on the Amazon seller app, they had a good rank, only 2 or 3 other sellers, and at least sometimes up to 100% profit margin on a $50 buy cost. So I started buying those things, and I thought, and that was just something that was so valuable to me because, I never thought about it before. So there's so many ways that just the podcast and the Proven Amazon course have just really, helped our business and been a great encouragement. Besides the attitude, the whole candlelight versus cake thing is just really huge because there is so much opportunity. You don't have to keep it to yourself because there's enough for everybody.
I love that you brought the candlelight versus cake word picture to people's minds. And I've probably shared it 50 times. And those who've listened to more than 30 or 40 episodes have probably heard it. But for the sake of people who haven't, Mark, do you mind sharing what you mean by cake versus candlelight? And you don't have to get it perfect. I'll fill in any gaps if it's something that doesn't come to mind immediately. But what do you mean by that?
Well, you see, Jim, you can look at opportunity, especially in the e-commerce world, as cake, which means there's only a certain number of slices. And if I take this much, there's only a certain amount left or if somebody else takes a big slice, there's only a certain amount left for me, and then it's done. But that's not the way that e-commerce works. It's more like candlelight. If we light a candle, we can light another one, and I haven't lost any of my light, and that other person has more, and then they can share it with just as many people as they want to, and the opportunities are endless. How's that?
Perfect. I might just capture that recording and use it from now on because now I've got a pastor saying it. It's official. Well said. Yeah. Success and opportunity. And this, again, this is another place where regardless of your worldview, this is a biblical concept here of, we don't have a poverty mindset. We have an abundance mindset. That's a business concept, but it's from the Bible. But regardless of your worldview, you can use that and use it to your benefit. It makes you a positive person. It makes you someone who people like to work with. You're approachable. They want to be around you versus someone who says, no, this is mine. Everyone else stay away. Like, okay, have fun in your dark hole. Those businesses don't succeed. You could call it common sense if you want. We call it a biblical concept around here, but it's powerful. And yeah, we ingrain it. You can't be on our leadership team unless you think that way. Yeah. And that's created a pretty powerful leadership team. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. All right, Amanda, we haven't heard from you. What are we leaving out? What are the guys forgetting here?
So Mark and I do a lot of clothes. We sell a lot of clothes. And I wanted to talk about that a little bit because I know that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I love it. I absolutely love hunting for clothes. And we do well with it. Like we find plenty to sell. And I still love incorporating it back into our eBay business. So I just am familiar with brands and I can just eyeball something and be like, that's going to sell on eBay. I know it. And I do. I'll pick that up. I'm like, all right, that's for eBay. So we sell a lot of clothes. We also do a lot of replens. And then we just a little bit more on the homeschooling thing, but Mark and I always, not 100% of the time, but it's very important to us that one of us is home at all times with our boys. So we leave them home plenty if we're going to go out on a date. It's not that. Sure. But we really want the accountability for them of we are around and we're working and we're just here if you need us, but we're here. So we really will sit down at the beginning of the week and be like, all right, what day are you shopping? What day are you shopping? To where one of us is home at all times with our kids. But we're very much separate. I mean, we're aware of what each other is doing, but I mainly focus on clothes and Mark mainly focuses on replens. So we have our own little system. We do have an employee that works for us a ton. She does all of our packaging and all of the clothing for us. She's actually our pastor's wife. So we have a great relationship with her. We're super thankful for her. She has been a huge blessing in this business. And she just is eager. She just sent us a message the other day. She was like, I'm so thankful for this job. I just hope I tell you guys enough. And so we love them and their family. And then we also have our 16-year-old who we're training to work on the replens model with Mark. He's like inching his way up with that. And then we also have Mark's sister in Virginia. She taught herself the whole program of shopping and listing and prepping and shipping. So she just will just go out and we pay her by the hour. She'll just go out and do her thing and just kind of be like, here's the receipt. This is what I did. So we feel like we felt a little bit of a team of what we're doing. And again, I guess my biggest encouragement to people is not to keep harping on this, but we're not business people. I just want to say you can do it. Like anybody can do this. Like it is hard work. It's a lot of perseverance, but you can also do it. We don't have business degrees. We have Bible degrees, both of us. So, right. And we're making it, so, that's, do you want to say more about our replens with our COVID replen? That was kind of an interesting story.
Oh, well, when COVID first hit last year, we were going along pretty well, but then most of the stores that we normally buy stuff from, they shut down.
Sure.
But the grocery stores were still open. At the time, we hadn't really incorporated a whole lot of, replens, stuff that you find at the big box stores into our business model. But I just thought, well, we got to do something. And I sold some stuff around the house on Macari and made a few $100s that way. I just went to the local Walmart that first week that everything was shut down. And I found this really popular condiment on the end cap. I'd never seen it there before. And And I just scanned it, and it came up at a pretty good profit if I just would sell it. You couldn't send anything in at that time, except for cleaning supplies. So I just decided to sell them from home, and they just kept selling. And I think by the end of that first week, we were selling 50 or 60 a day from our house, and eventually made a 2-pack with 2 different varieties on that. And that they just kept flying off the shelves. Eventually we were able to send them in to FBA, and that still just kept on sailing with that. So we made at least 1,000 in profit a month for over a year on that thing. And I just think, well, I was so fortunate or lucky or thankful that, that the Lord brought me to that. I don't know. If I didn't go out in the store and look, I wouldn't have found it. So that's another
instance. This is a name brand, a popular name brand.
Yes. It's a very popular restaurant brand
that we all recognize.
Yeah, sure.
I say that all the time, but until people experience it themselves, they're skeptical. But a lot of the stuff we sell every day from our warehouse over here that our shoppers are out grabbing, I mean, it's stuff that anybody could walk into any Walmart anywhere in the United States. Or if you live overseas, you can have people buying online doing the same stuff. Anybody in the world could have grabbed, because you said you found it, was it in a Walmart?
Yeah.
Which they sell online. So anyone anywhere in the world could have jumped on that. But you guys did. And you made about $12,000 because you just happened to check it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. There's so much opportunity. And if like you said earlier, if you just kind of isolate yourself and just try to go it alone, then it's much easier to get discouraged. Yeah. I'm not that active on the Facebook. I mean, I look at it all the time, the Facebook group, the Silent Sales Machine group, but also, the other ones too. We just joined Legend a few months ago, and we're getting some great benefit from that. And then the other Facebook groups like the Replens group and the PPP group. Sure. But I don't really respond to much, but I get so much encouragement from people saying, I kept at it, or here's my story or something. And there's just so much to be said for not giving up and for just plowing ahead. There was a lot of things that I learned, not from the Proven Amazon course, sorry to say. I mean, plenty of things I did, but there's plenty of things that have really helped our business to succeed that I just had to figure out for myself, Sure. Like for one example, if you don't mind.
Please do educate us.
I mean, it's probably no big secret. Everybody knows this, but I was just so excited to find it out for myself that when I would find a good product in the store and didn't have anybody on the listing and it had a good rank, I would just list it right there in the store. Just yesterday, there's this one particular item, this back to school item that's really, we just can't find enough of them right now. So I found one just yesterday in the store. I found 4 of them. Nobody was on the listing. So I listed them all right there in the store, like $50 buy cost, selling for $110. And when you sell merchant fulfilled, the fees are much less, so the profit margin is higher. One sold before I got to the checkout line. All 4 of them sold before I got home that day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, you hear about that, especially during Q4. Some of these hot items that you can walk into the store and just say, "Yeah, I want to sell this now," while it's still in your cart. You could actually just kind of wait and see what happens.
Yeah, sure.
You buy it. You stand there. You can sell your cart full before you even pay for them. It's a great feeling. Yeah. Again, that's with merchant fulfill.
Right.
That works extremely well. Because
that kind of stuff never gets old, Seeing
so exciting.
Seeing your numbers just tick up and up throughout the day as you're checking your phone, even when you're like we live close to the beach or we have season passes to Disney. I mean, we're having fun as a family, but I'm still looking and watching those numbers go up, and it's just the greatest feeling,
We text each other. Did you see? Oh, did you see? Like I don't know if everybody gets into it as much as we do, but
we do.
Like
I've been doing
Simon level.
I've been doing it 20 years, and I have to discipline myself. Okay, I'm going to take 4 hours off from checking my stats on,
Yeah,
it just a different area because I've got multiple things rocking at this point, right? But just like I'm not going to check any of them. It's really hard to do because it's just so fun to refresh.
It is fun, yeah.
See how things are going, and it's evidence that happy customers out there are benefiting from the work that you did. And there's the proof, that's what makes it so rewarding. And we get to benefit from serving others well. It's just an incredible feeling. And while you're sleeping, you wake up and there's some new numbers rolling in, right? Just a beautiful, it never gets old. I'm telling you, it just doesn't.
We have my mom here with us the past 10 days. And my dad passed away right before COVID, very suddenly. It was we lost the captain of our ship. And so, so she came down and I threw her in the car with me. I'm like, we're shopping every day. And so, she got in on it too. And so she's calling me now being like, hey, how's, so-and-so going? How'd that do? And so, even in that, I feel like I'm able to include my mom and something exciting for her during this hard time in her life. And it's a ministry. It's a way to serve. And I know you've just said it. We are so grateful that this is what the Lord has given us to do. And, it's when we got married, it wasn't what we were thinking, but this is what the Lord has given us. And we are just jumping for joy with this opportunity that the Lord has given us. And we have a lot more to learn. We have a lot of areas. We went to the conference and we both came home just with our heads about to explode. Just bottom line of there's just so much great stuff out there to be doing with helping others and, learning new stuff for ourselves and growing our business and, something that we want to keep doing for years to come, incorporate our sons as much as they want. And, it's like we pinch ourselves that this is what the Lord had for us when we came together to be in ministry together. We're so thankful.
Yeah. It's amazing to me. I grew up with people encouraging me. Like I have the personality profile of a pastor. And I had people recognize that and encourage me into it and push me in that direction. I just never felt that call, and as Christians, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, I never felt that tug. Like, no, I'm supposed to do something different. I want to be in ministry. I want to support ministries, but I don't want to be a full-time pastor.
Yeah.
And this has opened up more doors. I spend a lot more time in front of people with different worldviews, which is where you want to be, than if I was in a full-time ministry somewhere, paying the mortgage on a big building and that sort of thing, the staff and all the issues that go along. I'm a pastor's kid. I remember what goes into being a pastor and nothing against it. Love my local church, but that's not for me. Yeah. I love the role that I get to play here. You talk about the relationships and building something that you can bring people on board with and they can see the progress and you're building it together. That just the most rewarding relationships come through business. And I've become quite an advocate now. Like I encourage, I think, this maybe sound like a bold statement, but I feel like everybody, regardless of your worldview, but especially if you're a Christian, you should have a home-based business of some kind. Just for all the benefits that it brings to your family, let alone the financial, but just the lessons and how the world works. And it's kind of like we've gotten away from farming, and I don't want to move back onto 50 acres and do all the work. I did that as a kid, but a lot of those lessons are very valuable. And you kind of pick up the same lessons from business, hard work, waiting for the harvest. You risk now and you benefit later. Those are some important lessons to learn, especially as a kid.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, take us through. Is there any more of your story that we've left out? Anything else you guys want to share? I do want to get into some numbers too. We haven't really talked much about that yet, where you're at, or if there's anything you're struggling with, maybe we can think through it together today, because most of us have common struggles that several other people have at the same time.
Yeah.
I think that we have a hard time handing over what we do. I think that my shirt in my poly bag looks so beautiful. Nobody else is capable of folding that shirt as beautifully. And we got to let go of some of those things and that's why I said, we're starting with these videos of we'll show you exactly how we do it and, give you some pointers, but we do have to start letting go of some things and freeing up, as much as we do give our friend, our pastor's wife to do, we're still doing plenty here that I say to Mark, I'm like, you can't be taping boxes, like that we've got to start letting go of some of those things. And as much as we talk about it, we still really struggle with moving forward in that area.
Yes, and we'll have to, or else, I mean, there's not much more that we can do ourselves. So if we're going to grow and scale and see more success, we're going to have to outsource and turn more of that over to others.
And these are really ultimately math decisions that we're talking about right now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned an appreciation for the Hebrew root of different aspects of business and life, but specifically in business, one of the root definitions of wisdom involves numbers. And what that means is, and not that I'm educating you, Mark and Amanda, you may be fully aware. Hopefully, one of the listeners benefits from this. If you've heard me say it before, I apologize. But to truly apply wisdom to any scenario, you've got to ask yourself a couple questions. Are there numbers involved here? If so, do we have all the available numbers and data that we need? It seems obvious, it seems common sense, but many people kind of fly by instinct, or like, you know what, I feel like they're not as good at this as, but ultimately, does the customer care that it was folded by Amanda? Because it's been dropped 50 times on the way there anyway. It's wadded up in a ball in the bottom of the poly bag by the time it gets there, right? So, okay, if we're truly analyzing this from a math number data perspective, are we making good decisions there? And what amount of money would I have to pay someone to learn to put tape on a box really well? Like, is my time worth more than that? These are math decisions. And when you start reducing it down to math, it starts to become pretty clear. Which is why, have you guys heard, you mentioned earlier on the homeschooling, the benefits of that, the Hebrew traditional wisdom. One of my favorite things to ask people, and if you guys have heard this, you may get the answer right. If you haven't, you'll enjoy this, Mark and Amanda. So here's a question for you and the listeners too. There's 3 things in the Hebrew tradition, again, the biblical-based Judeo-Christian ethic. There's 3 things that a child must have to succeed in life. If you're going to educate and raise men, what do they need? Well, I'll give you the first 2. It's the vertical and the horizontal. Vertical is understanding spiritual things, understanding man is spiritual, having a walk with God. In our case, as Christians, a walk with Christ. Okay, then you got the horizontal. That's understanding male-female relationships, being able to relate well with others, be able to look someone in the eyes and shake their hand when you're a kid, not hide behind mommy's leg, right? It's okay to be shy, but it's okay to be an introvert, but it's not okay to be shy, is what I meant to say, right? So you teach those skills. So those are the first 2. Do you know what the third is? Have you ever heard us mention that before?
I don't think so.
You guys might enjoy this because it goes right along with what we're saying right now. It's understanding enough about math and numbers that you can succeed in business. Either as an employee, in which case you have one customer, still an entrepreneurial spirit, right? Or as someone who owns their own business, ideally, and you're able to serve your customers well by generating a profit. You got to know your numbers to know when you're making money and to be able to apply wisdom to different scenarios, right? So that's it. Those are the 3. Isn't that phenomenal? So everything else is kind of icing on the cake and, different passions. You're getting to science or the arts or whatever. That's all beautiful stuff, but you got to have those 3 to raise a child successfully into an adult.
I think that's been one of our weaknesses, is knowing our numbers. And recently, I feel like we've gotten some help in that area through 2 avenues. One is we're coaching students. So we've already been through.
Who's your coach?
Larry and Sue.
Larry and Sue Pruitt. Awesome. They were recent guests on the show.
Right.
Yes.
We're done now. We've gone through our 12 sessions. So, but towards the end, we really asked for some help for them from our numbers, and they really helped us along that way. They eased some of our fears, but also gave us some really good direction. And then I had heard you say on the podcast many times, Silent Gyms / numbers or something like that. So or proven Amazon course / numbers. So I finally went back to look at what that was. And that's Seller Board. So Seller Board, we've incorporated into our business for about 4 months now. And that's really given us a good handle on. So if you want to know what our numbers are, if you had asked me 4 months ago, I would just had to guess. But now that's given us a really good handle, very reasonable monthly fee. And it's really helped us to see, where we stand.
silentgym.com/numbers has a podcast episode tied to that page, as well as the Seller Board. You can get in there and learn about Seller Board. And that's phenomenal. So you guys have had it 4 months. What are we looking at? Share some details with me.
Well, in the last 12 months, we are right at 600,000 in sales. In fact, last year in August, we had a really high month. So, when July 31st came a couple of days ago, we were way up over 600,000. And now that August 1st came, you know how they recycle the figures. So now we're down way under 6,000. So that's so we got to work hard to get it back up. But we've averaged that for the last 12 months, and that's right at about 18% profit. That's factoring in the cost of supplies and payroll and everything else. So we're very happy about that. Right at about 50% ROI. That's what we shoot for whenever we're looking for something to sell. So that's where we're at now.
So you guys put about 120,000 a year in the bank that you live off of, if I'm doing the math right.
I don't know if all of it makes it to the bank.
Well, you're rolling it back into other inventory.
Yeah, sure.
That's your profit.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Which I got to imagine. I mean, I don't know what you made as a pastor or a teacher, but I'm guessing that's on the plus side of where you were then.
Yes, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I've recently come off of all of my fitness industry stuff to like teaching my classes. So I'm just now, we're both just doing this now. So we
Going
don't have
in full
anything
time.
extra.
Yeah.
Yes.
Big plans for Q4 coming up as we're recording this. We're early in August of 2021. So October, November, December should be big, especially if you're willing to go after some of those higher ticket items. I love that tip, Mark.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can flip and do some shipping from does the pastor's wife that comes and helps you guys, does she come to your house or do you guys have an office? How's that work?
It's at her house. We take stuff
okay.
to her. She
Beautiful.
doesn't live too far away. Yeah.
Mhm.
Great arrangement. Much like our friend Josh Rojas, who's also there in Central Florida. Have you guys met and hung out with him?
We did. We met him at the conference there, and his way of doing things sounds really good to us. We live in a gated community, so I think that might be our next step, is just putting an ad on Nextdoor and seeing who would like to work with us. And just maybe live within walking distance,
Mhm.
Exactly. Great plan. I love that Central Florida community that's starting to form there. Josh is a Central Indiana guy, lived right down the road from me. His dad still works in my warehouse every day. His mom and dad are over there right now. But he's in Florida now, near you guys.
Yeah.
And I'm a leader because his whole team, he's grown a multiple 7-figure business, but his entire team works from home, which is such a beautiful model. I just love that. Yeah. So you guys are onto something special for 2021. What number would you like to see?
Well, I guess I don't know that I've thought about it. We just want to keep growing. The first year, I think we were 380 or something like that. And then the second year, we're around 540, and now we're up to 600. So I don't know if we can continue to outsource and to grow. I mean, we don't want to put a limit on anything, so we'll just make as much as we can.
Yeah. That's kind of how I approach business too. When people try to pin me down to a specific goal, growth is the goal.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We really threw around a lot too about whether it was time to get a little office or, go outside of the home. And we always keep coming back to, let's stay home.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've heard plenty of wives say the boxes and the stuff that's around the house is just, it does make it a little bit difficult for the home. So we do have a room that's dedicated to all things for the business. So, we can definitely shut the door. I work on my kitchen table, and then I do make that a habit that when I'm done, I put everything away and I put the decoration back on the table to just give me that sense of this is our home as well. And we, also do other things besides a business here. And I think that's important, to have a start and a stop and, separating yourself and enjoy, so that your home doesn't feel like it's just always this business. Oh, we can't even have anybody over because we got all these boxes everywhere. So it is a little bit of an effort probably to to move things around, but it does give us that feeling of like, all right, now we're done for the day. We're going to put this away and we'll start again tomorrow or whatever. I mean,
you're controlling your business instead of it controlling you and your life.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Like who's in charge here?
That doesn't mean that Saturday afternoon I'm hauling everything back out on my kitchen table. I mean, as I say, we work all the time, but then we don't work either. So there's no set schedule, but just when it's time to be done, then you put it away and then you have your home back until it's time to start again. And that's been really helpful to keeping us both here.
That's a lot of wisdom there, for sure. I love that. I think
she's
you're challenging
very wise.
Yeah, we should let her talk more.
We should, yeah.
Yeah. What are we forgetting? What are we leaving out? What else? What other parts of the story? This is the part where I say, hey, we're going to be landing this episode soon, but I don't want to leave out anything. If you guys have written down some notes, some things you wanted to share, some encouragement for the listeners, perhaps, the floor is yours.
Well, we hooked up with Nathan at the conference. So we're working on some brand registry now.
Good.
So that's exciting for us. We're going through that process of like brand name and things like that.
That's mainly for the bundles that we're creating.
Right.
The last couple of years, I guess I've made about 18 or 20 bundles. And most of them have done fairly well. There's been some that, didn't do much, but one of them, but the problem we run into is, I'll make a creative bundle, maybe all of a certain brand with 4 different flavors. And then there was one where I was selling 90 or 100 a month over 2 months. And then after 2 months, people started jumping on it. And after 4 months, there was 30 or so sellers on it. So, but there's nothing I can do about that. So, so we're looking at ways to become brand registered and make those bundles unique where nobody else can get on the listing.
Exactly. You're talking about the services we offer through Humminbird.
Right.
And we can help you get your brand registry, get your trademark, and then you can put some unique items in there. And there's other creative ways to protect your bundle, but over time, people get real creative sneaking in there. But if you're trademarked, brand registered with Amazon, you can lock those down a little tighter. So that's content and training that's all coming. But I'll stick a link to Humminbird too if anyone's wanting to talk trademark and that kind of thing since we brought it up. But that's cool to hear. That's exciting stuff. If you can lock down bundles that are moving that fast, you can start to see where you got a pretty rocking business.
Yeah. Well, Jim, we're not experts. We're not, multi-million-dollar sellers or anything like that, like some people in the community are. But we're making a living and we're providing for our family and we're staying home with our kids and we have a flexible schedule and we just want to keep growing. And I think maybe, the thing that might encourage most people who might be listening to this, of the 66,000 plus members of the Facebook group is don't quit. I mean, whatever obstacle you run into, there's a way, figure it out and keep going. And I don't know, maybe that would be the most encouraging thing that many people could hear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Phenomenal. I couldn't say it better myself. Yeah. That's, you don't lose unless you quit.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. I also think another good piece of advice is the whole, letting, if your product dies, then you got to let it go. I mean, our COVID bundle is dead. Like it is no money to us anymore.
You're precious. You should say
yes.
You're precious.
I mean, I've sat at my kitchen table and packaged those for weeks.
Right.
So it's like in my heart.
Yeah, you've got a family picture with one of those bundles right there next to all of you, right?
I tear up every time I see it on the shelf.
Yeah, now. It's like, let's just get it for the fun of it. And he's like, no. So it died. We got to let it go. And it will always be our COVID baby. But, the baby grew up and we got to move on to something else. And that's a little bit hard, like I've heard you talk about that before. You're like, it was so good. Yeah, but it's not anymore. Move on. There's more out there. You can't hold on to that forever. So that's been a little bit of a lesson too.
Yeah. The best cure for those lost replens that you're just like, they were so awesome and they were doing, is to go find 15 more.
Yeah.
That's the best way to forget.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Well, you guys have been a delight to hang out with. This has been a really fun episode. Anything else left on the on the list to share. I mean, I think people are really going to enjoy this. And at next year's conference, you guys are going to be the ones people come up to and go, oh, what? You know what? You're the ones that convinced me to get into this. It was your story. I guarantee you're going to hear that. It's so rewarding too, to hear the success stories and people crediting you for where they are now. That's why I love sharing these stories. It's just so much more powerful, impactful. But what else is on your guys' minds? Anything else before we wrap this up?
No, I think that's all we got. We've told you everything we know.
I have a feeling that there's a lot more that we could dive into, but I'll trust you here on this one. We'll have you back again with another update. I think you guys can have $1 million year next year. I really do. I don't think that's out of reach at all for you guys, for what you've described and the processes you have. And I'm sure you're going to hear from a few listeners in our community that have some more questions for you guys. And that's what I love about this community. These are real people. These aren't untouchable first name only in a face on a website. These are real people hanging out in our groups. I would encourage you guys, go ahead and jump in and engage a little bit more. I heard you kind of speak about your own business in terms of, well, it's not like these other really big ones. Those people with those really big businesses, they're the minority of our group. Most people are in the middle of the bell curve, kind of around where you guys are, been doing it a while, paying the bills. Very exciting place to be compared to the vast majority of the rest of the world, where we hear statistics like 75% of our culture feels like they're in a work that they weren't made to do. Like they don't find it rewarding necessarily. Like that's a pretty big, scary number. And here we are saying, we get to be with our kids. We're together. We're building something. We can include family, friends, neighbors. It's rewarding. Bright future, industry prospects look positive, right? There's a lot of industries I wouldn't want to be in right now, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Scary.
Yes, definitely.
So we are very blessed. A lot to be grateful for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Mark and Amanda, it's been great hanging out with you guys. I'm going to talk to the listeners for just a second. Hey, everybody that gathered here today, you listening to this right now in the car, on a jog, whatever you're doing, we're so glad you joined us today. The most valuable possession God gave us was time. It's limited, and you spent some of it on us today. So we are beyond grateful for that. And we plan to bring you more great episodes just like this one in the future. Please know this. We're praying for you. We're rooting for you. Our free Facebook group is there to encourage you to answer questions that you run into. Mark and Amanda are going to be there 24 hours a day from now on to help you with anything you need, right?
Totally.
No, but we've got a whole community, 66,000 Mark mentioned, and growing, of great people from around the world. So you're probably not going to run into anything that we haven't seen before. We're here to help. And we'll have another great episode like this one again for you real soon. Thanks to our guests. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, Jim.